Oil prices rise above $40 for the first time in 3 months. And Senate increased crude oil benchmark to $28. The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, launched its 2020 oil field licensing round, and National Bureau of Statistics' latest report on the energy sector. Liquefied petroleum gas expansion in Nigeria. NNPC loses 20 billion naira to vandalism in 2 months. And discos record billions of naira losses to electricity thieves. And on environmental matters, IMF calls on countries to end fossil fuel subsidies. And Nigeria holds press briefing to mark World Environment Day tomorrow. You can watch E&E Weekly live online on www.asoradiotv.com/live and on StarTimes TV, channel 127, and Free TV for channel 507. You can watch a copy of every episode of E&E Weekly on its YouTube page. You simply search for E&E Weekly. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is E&E Weekly. I'm Joycelyn Elakeche Ada. We are starting off with some good news on the rise of oil prices for the first time in 3 months. Crude oil rose to about $40 within the week. Analysts say there is hope as major oil producers plan to extend the OPEC production output cuts, and hopefully we will see a recovery from the coronavirus pandemic soar up fuel demand. The original quote by OPEC Plus members and other major oil-producing countries was 9.7 million barrels per day for the month of June, and from July to December, a reduction of 7.7 million barrels per day. Presently, Saudi Arabia is pushing for the deeper cut of 9.7 million barrels to remain. It's believed that with the deeper cuts, the price of oil will shore up. President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman agreed on a preliminary deal to extend existing oil output cuts by 1 month. It would be recalled that these two countries started an oil price war just a few months back, which led to the overflooding of the oil market. The two countries are urging countries with poor compliance level to deepen their output cuts so as to further stabilize oil prices. OPEC meeting is set to commence between the 5th and 10th of June. And with that meeting, more details of production cuts will be decided. And with the steady rise of oil prices, the Senate has increased the price of crude oil benchmark to $28 per barrel from $25 per barrel. The Senate Chairman on Media and Publicity, Senator Ajibola Bashiru, made this known while briefing newsmen on the presentation of reports by the Senate Chairman Committee on Finance, Senator Solomon Olamileko in Abuja. Our correspondent, Topsy Gimba, files in this report.
Committee on Media and Publicity, Senator Ajibola Bashiru stated this while briefing newsmen on the presentation of a report by the Senate Chairman Committee on Finance, Senator Solomon Olamileko in Abuja. Senator Bashiru said the Senate considers setting indices before jacking the price of the crude oil. He said other oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia has agreed to reduce oil production in order to add value into oil price at the international market, which has also informed the Senate to jack the benchmark from $28 per barrel. Senator Basiru disclosed that the $3 added to the initial $25 benchmark per barrel will increase savings for the country. According to him, that the action of the Senate has also proved to the world that National Assembly is no longer a rubber stamp as earlier conceived by some Nigerians.
The development with the agreement in among the OPEC on cutting down of production and the seeming understanding now between the OPEC and OPEC Plus member, there is a justification to say that $25 per barrel suggested is not sustainable. It should rather be $28 per barrel. Then in terms of the output per day, this also be adjusted to 1.8 million from 2.1 billion, 1 million barrel per day. So we now have a projection of 1.8 million barrel per day at the cost of $28 per barrel.
The spokesperson of the Senate noted that NNPC was, however, urged to increase oil production to 2.8 billion barrels of crude oil per day, as against the proposed 1.9 million barrels per day in the revised 2020 budget. He further noted that the Senate arrived at some of these decisions following the mess COVID-19 has done to the nation's economy.
The committee, in agreement with attending MDAs, concluded that in the present circumstances of absence of required details, it will resume and conclude the consideration of the other two outstanding components of Mr. President's external borrowing request relating to funding of priority projects of the federal government to be captured in the budget estimate for 2021 and facilities to support state government to face the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. So those are the two components that were stated.
Senator Ajibola Basiru explained that the Senate also received a report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts, where they approved about $5 billion foreign loan to be assessed by the executive to fund 2020 budget deficit. He further reiterated that assessing foreign loan was not an exclusive preserve to Nigeria alone, but also applicable to most countries of the world. The plenary was adjourned to next week, Tuesday, where the revised 2020 budget copies may be distributed to senators for study for contribution on the floor of the Red Chamber for possible passage. Topsy Gimba.
That was Topsy Gimba from the Senate. The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, has launched its 2020 licensing round for marginal oil fields after 18 years. The government hopes this new licensing round will boost oil output and bring in much needed revenue from fees associated with licensing. Marginal oil fields are fields that have been discovered by major international companies in Nigeria, IOCs. The federal government initiated the development program of the marginal oil field to increase production reserves, employment, and indigenous participation in oil and gas business for years. For years, stakeholders in the oil and gas sector have called on the federal government to conduct a bid to raise funds for critical projects in the country. This rounds of bid exercise is for companies and investors interested in the participation of exploration and production businesses in Nigeria. The Department of Petroleum Resources announced that a total of 57 oil fields located on land, swamp, shallow offshore terrains, and offers. DPR says the exercise will be conducted electronically and will include expression of interest, registration, pre-qualification, technical and commercial bid submission, and bid evaluation. According to the Petroleum Agency, the 2020 oil bid round exercise guidelines are as follows. Interested bidders shall attract non-refundable charges fees and should visit the official website for more information. And now to the latest report on the energy sector from the National Bureau of Statistics. The National Bureau of Statistics said that Nigeria imported 28.9 billion liters of petrol worth 4.2 trillion naira among energy products in 2019. This is according to the Bureau of Statistics Petroleum Products Import and Consumption Statistics Report of 2019. Here is a rundown of the imported petroleum products for the year 2019. 20.89 billion liters of premium motor spirit, 5.15 billion liters of automotive gas oil, 128.11 million liters of household kerosene, 1.07 billion liters of aviation turbine kerosene, and 45.98 million liters of low or fuel oil, and 526.06 million liters of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas. All of these were imported into the country in the year 2019 by the National Bureau of Statistics reports. And moving on to gas, the project coordinator, manager of the National Gas Expansion Program under the Office of the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ms. Brenda Atega, says the federal government's cylinder recirculation model is aimed at increasing the usage of liquefied petroleum gas, which is also known as cooking gas. She said IoT would also improve safety and reduce costs. Ms. Atega disclosed this in a webinar meeting on Nigeria LPG Assembly. It would be recalled that the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva, declared the year 2020 as a year of gas. She explained that the concept of cylinder recirculation is government's way of reducing the cost of switching from kerosene and fossil fuel to cooking gas, making it affordable for the switch to happen, as most Nigerians are still using kerosene and other forms of cooking commodities. She expressed citizens' fear of the switch ranging from cost to safety, saying the cylinder recirculation program will address these issues. Meanwhile, the program manager, National LPG Expansion and Implementation Plan, Office of the Vice President, Mr. Dayo Adeshina, said LPG penetration in the country is still at 5%. Giving a rundown on the cooking materials in Nigeria, Mr. Adeshina said 60% of Nigerians cook with firewood, 30% use kerosene, 5% use charcoal, and 5% use cooking gas. He explained that LPG penetration in the country by the government is not just for household consumption, but also targeted for usage in areas such as agriculture, transportation, and manufacturing. He said this would create 450,000 direct jobs and would enable Nigeria to reduce CO2 emissions by 20%. But the program manager explained that for this to be actualized, a whole lot still needs to be done in terms of infrastructure development, which includes the establishment of 3,000 LPG plants, procurement of 10,000 trucks, 5,000 bridges, and additional skids. Speaking at the meeting, Mr. Michael Kelly, the Deputy Managing Director of the World LPG Association, said the organization would continue to support Nigeria's effort at deepening LPG penetration. He explained that achieving this goal required regulations and enforcement of such regulations, and also the provision of infrastructure to promote and attract investment into the sector. And the issue of vandalism and petroleum product thieves has cost Nigeria National Oil Company great losses. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, says it has lost over 20 billion naira to vandals in the month of January and February alone. The National Oil said the illegal activities of vandals and loss of refined products, especially in the area of petrol, has amounted to about 56 million liters from January to April 2020 from its 2B system line alone. The corporation said it is working hand in hand with the Nigerian Navy to arrest the situation. Already, 203 illegal refineries have been destroyed within the first 4 months of this year, as the National Oil Company has lost over 7 billion naira to oil thieves. The corporation disclosed that due to the collaboration with the Nigerian Navy, the monthly loss of 40 million liters and more have reduced to about 31 million liters. For the year 2019, the corporation said 291 million liters of petroleum products valuing at about 38 billion liters was stolen by oil thieves from the System 2B access. NNPC said damage to its pipeline infrastructure, crude oil spillage, which is harmful to the environment, has been of great financial loss to the corporation. Meanwhile, NNPC says as part of efforts to curtail and stop the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, all marketers can now buy product online, as they have developed a sales and distribution application in the oil and gas secondary portal. The application is called Customer Express, and marketers can register and validate their bulk purchase agreements online, all within a week. At the same time, the portal enables the corporation to track products imported, transported, and sold at any given time. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we will bring you stories from the power and environment sector. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is E&E Weekly. And over now to the power sector. Discos around the nation says they are losing billions of naira due to customer meter bypass and vandals. The Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, PHED, said it has lost 2.5 billion naira in 4 states. The states are Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, and River States. The distribution company says due to these losses, the company is unable to expand its facilities in these 4 states of operation. The ABUJA Electricity Distribution Company says giving a specific figure to their losses might not be so easy, but it is in the ranges of billions of naira. AEDC explained that they have different types of electricity thieves. They are the free riders who are not on the company's database, and they simply connect electricity wires directly to electricity poles, as dangerous as that might be. And they are the meter bypass customers who have prepaid meters but simply bypass them, and then the unmetered customers that are either underbilled or overbilled, which of course has been a very big issue in the power sector. Meanwhile, the Transmission Company of Nigeria said 90% restoration has occurred on their collapsed national grid. The reason for the collapse was not released, but as at when filing in this report, the company said actions have been taken to restore power nationwide. Well, the discos around the nation say that they have the biggest issue of billing customers, especially customers that are not on their database and customers that are not metered. This seems to be the biggest problem in the electricity sector for discos. The managing director of the National Monetary Fund, IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, have called on countries to reset the global economy to put an end to fossil fuel subsidies to create a greener, fairer economy for the future. She said the initiative is to build a better world in the wake of COVID-19, and with the low oil pricing, it will be a great time to take advantage to eliminate harmful subsidies. And that's for environment. And more on environment, the Minister of Environment, Dr. Mohammed Mahmoud Abubakar, will be holding a press briefing today to mark the World Environment Day. The World Environment Day comes up on the 5th of June of every year. Most of the discussions will be centered on the emergence of coronavirus and how to protect the environment from the damages brought about by the pandemic. We will bring you more from the briefing in our next episode of E&E Weekly. Tomorrow is a World Environment Day. Let's go out and keep our environment safe and clean for the future. And that's all we have on E&E Weekly this week. I am Joycelyn Alakeche Ada. Thanks for watching.